right. Good evening again. Thank you so much for being here. I'd like to introduce Sergeant Gilbert to start us off on talking about social media and our teenagers.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming to see this presentation and spend a little bit of your own time trying to come up with some solutions to problems we're all facing. Hopefully to give you guys some information about the youth services team and kind of the main areas that we see cell phones and digital devices and social media sort of getting young people into the kind of trouble that would bring them to our office. Dr. Henson's going to talk later about some of the brain health implications of phones. So I'm not going to delve too deep into what behaviors I've seen in kids. Really, I'm going to frame the conversation around the law. So we're going to talk about the 3 areas and then the different laws in each of those areas, and I'll provide some examples, and I'm happy to answer questions if you have any. A little bit about me and the team. I'm a youth service detective. I'm the sergeant of the unit. We call them YSDs because of the serious work that they do. A lot of other organizations around the nation call them SROs, the same thing. That's exactly what we do. So we're part of the investigations division, and most of our work is dictated by an intergovernmental agreement between the Hillsborough School District and the police department. Incidentally, the agreement's posted online on our webpage. There's a link and QR code at the end of this presentation, so if you want to navigate there, maybe you can win a prize. All right, there's 8 physicians in our youth services unit. Currently we have 2 vacancies, so I have 6 officers, 1 who's assigned to the Beaverton School District, the other 5 all work here in Hillsborough School District, and very likely to have interacted with your kids at some point. We try to keep school assignments by feeder, so each SRO has multiple schools that they're responsible for. Some of the SROs don't have a high school, so they'll have more elementary schools, but we try to keep them organized by feeder so that as kids move through the school system, they don't see surprise faces. Hopefully they can build relationships over the long period of time that they're in our schools with the officers that are there to support them. We have people working Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's our scope and our coverage and our main focus. We work at night fairly often, doing things like this, community presentations. We come to your football games, parades, stuff like that. We also have an office in each of the high schools. So the SROs that work in high schools have an office. They're in the building as much as they can be. The team has specialized training. So we have training that's specific to SRO stuff. We go to the OSRO Academy, the Oregon School Resource Officers Association. Receive a lot of training in conjunction and partnership with the Hillsborough School District around trauma-informed practices, diversity, equity, inclusion. A whole bunch of training that's really helpful for us and our team to be able to function in the school environment in a manner that's consistent with how the school environment wants us to operate. In addition, though, we get all kinds of other training. I've been a police officer for around 20 years now. Depicted in the photo here, you can see well over, I think, probably 100 years of experience here. Stephen Slade had been an officer. He's retired now, but he'd been with us for around 20 years. The entire team has specialized training. Kevin has training in the Oregon child forensic interviewing techniques so that he's able to testify about child statements when they're struggling with abuse and those kinds of cases. Megan Lynn has some advanced medical, we call it TCCC, advanced medical training for trauma response. She's part of our crisis negotiations team. So those are just a few examples. We have a couple Spanish speakers on the team, myself included. A few people who are experts in drug recognition and analysis and crash reconstruction. So lots of skills and experience. We don't apply all those skills in the school all the time, but kids are interested in what we have to say and what we do. And so it is great to have people, like Slade was a good example. I'm sure you can notice Slade was like 7 feet tall. He's a giant. Kind of an intimidating person, but a sweet man, a kind soul, and if you ever walked into his office at Liberty High while he was there, I'm sure you had a great conversation and told you about his kids or something that was going on with him. And really one of the main focus of our program is to help build trust and comfort with police officers. Unfortunately, I feel that police are a necessary part of our society. There's problems that happen that we can provide peaceful resolution that's consistent with the law, rather than have people try to solve their own problems, and that's really important. But we recognize the role police play in society can put barriers up. It can create fear and anxiety, and we want to help reduce that. And so that's one of the main benefits to having SROs in the schools is you have folks there that can provide police services in a manner that's more appropriate for the school environment. It's not just training. We're uniquely suited for this program. I have kids. Kevin has a couple kids. We all really enjoy being around young people and their families. We enjoy working with kids to try to help them develop the skills they're going to need as adults. For me personally, I had spent a lot of time as kind of a hardcore crime fighter in my career, and becoming an SRO really showed me a different way to serve my community. And so the program benefits, I think, the community and the school, but it also benefits us, where Kevin, is it your third year?
Yeah.
Third year as an SRO, and I imagine Kevin's still learning a lot. We learn a lot from the young people, we learn a lot from the teachers and people that we get to observe. And I had the benefit of going back to a patrol job after SRO, and I was about 1,000 times the cop I was before going through SRO. We learn how to be humans and treat people like humans at a much higher level than patrol work is. And we're supervised by the Hillsborough PD Sergeant. That's me. I work really closely with Lisa Erickson. She's our public safety chief here in the Hillsborough School District, so we work together a lot. All right, a little bit on the program goals here. These come straight out of our intergovernmental agreement. So we're there to foster positive and we're there to foster positive and respectful school environments. We want to educate students, staff, and families on safety, law, and other police-related topics. We do that in any venue we can get. These kind of presentations aren't uncommon. At night we're giving information to parents. Also, the SROs on a daily basis are going into classrooms and talking to kids about issues just like this, drugs, safe driving. We want to be engaged in like a collaborative learning environment. We want to learn from the people that are there, and we want to share information that's helpful for them. The last thing is to strengthen community relationships. We do that through collaborative problem solving. A lot of times when the police are called, situations are kind of out of control, and we're asked to come and take control. And having a more fixed presence in the school organization allows us to kind of build relationships and respond to what the organization needs from us in a much better way than if we didn't have these types of programs or this type of agreement. Okay, this is really important. We're not involved in school discipline. One of my main jobs is to make sure that my team is not getting involved in ways that are inappropriate. We're police officers, and so we're there to enforce the law. And if a situation comes to us and we can't find any violation of the law, most of the time it's inappropriate for us to become involved. If an armed officer with a uniform, even a soft uniform like the one I'm wearing, enters a room, it changes the dynamics completely. And so we want to be sure that when we're entering a room, it's appropriate for the circumstances. So we always want to have some type of law violation outside of the school discipline or the student code of conduct. So we don't monitor kids in the hall during class time. We don't police their behavior while they're at school. We're there to engage in cooperative activities with them. We really try hard not to be disciplinary at school. Of course, there are circumstances where things happen in front of us. We're mentors in addition to just being adults in the building, so I'm sure sometimes we coach kids. We're not interrogating kids about stuff that's not crime, And yeah, we're just never gonna take a person's rights away without having the legal justification to do that. So. We do consult with our HSD partners to ensure that families are supported appropriately. So when young people are struggling and there's no law violation, there are a couple of ways that the police department supports the school district administration, families, and the student as they work through those problems. We go to a couple of meetings that are regular at every school. Care team meetings are where a group of people, a collaborative group of people, so all different roles within the school district and the police department, we can sit down and kind of collaboratively problem solve, talk about the behaviors, talk about maybe where they came from. Sometimes in those meetings, our team can bring information from the police world that wouldn't otherwise be available to the school district, that can help explain behaviors, indicate solutions for problems that are happening. So these are really important opportunities for us to connect with our partners. Sometimes it's an opportunity for them, the school district folks, to ask us questions about whether or not this is a legal problem or if there's an avenue that a person could take to find a legal recourse. And we'll try to give that advice. But really, we're there to be positive, pro-social, building relationships. We want to have fun. That's me with the trumpet. I really played trumpet if anyone wants. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 3 main risk areas. And, this isn't exclusive. These aren't the only ways that kids get in trouble with phones. It's not the only problem with phones, and Dr. Henson will talk to you a little bit more about some of the things that happen in young people's brains when they use the phone a lot. Well, I should say anyone's brain, because I know my brain's impacted by my phone. So, but these are the 3 kind of big ones, and they sort of go in order. The first one's the most common, and it's harassment, bullying, threats, and intimidation. So. It's like a force multiplier having a phone. Kids bullied each other when I was in school, but you could go home and you'd be free from the bullying now. And you'll see in some of the examples, with social media, there's just all these sophisticated ways to continue bullying someone after they go home. For example, if you have an Instagram account, your Instagram handle can be tagged. And then everything that goes along with that tag, you get reminded of. And so, one example, if any of you have ever been in the news, news stories have comment sections, and if you're in the news, especially if it's a bad article, it's like really hard not to read the comments. Well, social media is worse, because you have young people who are like trained to be constantly tapped into their phone. You can tell when someone looks at your message, you can tell when they've read your message. The relationships over the phone are just so much more intense. And so you add the intensity of bullying, harassment, intimidation. It can be very, very powerful, very harmful for kids. We all have to recognize the impact of COVID and the challenges our young people have been through. My kids are both I have one that just graduated, one's in high school still. And we really struggled. We struggled a lot. Kids are having a hard time. And the phones, they play on that. If a kid's having a hard time, they have this really powerful tool to extend that suffering to other people. So that's one risk area that I'll talk about. I'll talk about intimate images and exploitation. This one's really scary. It's really, really scary. I'm going to give you some information that I think will help. This one I think is avoidable. Young people are impulsive and they make mistakes, but there's some of the big scary things that I think if a parent can connect with the youth and help them understand what could potentially happen can be really helpful. So I'll talk a little bit about that and how people get in trouble with intimate images. Then I'll talk about the drug marketplace. All right, so first section, bullying, threats, intimidation. I'm just going to talk about the laws from kind of the lowest level crime up to the highest level crime. I guess for context, it's important for you to know when I talk about us, the SRO, enforcing laws like this, I want to be sure that you understand it. It looks different than it does for an adult. Kevin, did you ever use your handcuffs while you're an SRO in school? Never, not once. You've been an SRO 3 years, right? We very, very, very rarely ever take someone into physical custody, especially at school. If I had to guess, I think we took 3 students into custody last year. That's out of something like 30,000 kids. All of those were for, like, we had absolutely no choice but to make a custodial arrest, and we did it outside of the school in every circumstance. That's our goal. That's really what we want to do. So I'm going to talk about these crimes, but really most of the time when a youth gets charged for a crime by us, we talk to the youth and then we leave. We write a police report, it goes to the juvenile department. The juvenile department sends the youth a letter. No handcuffs involved. Juvenile department is very focused on trauma-informed practices, and so are we. Research shows that when young people get involved with the juvenile justice system, oftentimes their problems get worse rather than better. And so we want to reduce the impact that our justice system has on youth as much as we can. And that's why we get this special training, and Kevin knows that I support when he goes in to interview a young person who's made a really serious mistake, treat him like he would treat his own child. Because we want young people to be treated with respect and dignity. So, harassment. This is a relatively low-level crime. Most of the time, it means offensive physical contact. So if you push someone or slap a person and don't cause an injury, that can be harassment. But in the context of phones and social media, this is conveying a false report concerning death or serious injury to a person. Another way you can do it is publicly insult a person in a manner intended and likely to provoke a violent response. That one's harder with the phone. Honestly, harassment most of the time in that context is an in-person activity. But conveying a false report concerning death or serious injury to a person has happened. And the last one is to use a digital device to threaten to seriously injure someone or commit a felony against that person or property. And you'll see this language again later in a more serious crime, threatening to hurt someone seriously or to commit a felony against them or their property. So, interestingly, it's also a violation of the harassment law if you allow someone else to use your phone for those behaviors. So if I know Kevin's trying to bully somebody, but Kevin got his phone taken away, and I loan it, I'm as guilty as Kevin. So, it's a B misdemeanor. There's 3 levels of misdemeanors and felonies. Felonies are worse. A is the worst, B is second worst, C is hardly unlawful. So this is a B misdemeanor, and the example here is if an Instagram post tagging a youth's account and threatening to break their legs. So seems pretty simple. Kids do stuff like that, make little mistakes without thinking it's a big deal, and it can get them in trouble. All right, disorderly conduct 1. This actually happens relatively often. We don't often charge for this, but really been more and more common, it seems like, for us to have active shooter threats be made over social media that seem to originate from someone who wanted a Friday off. So it's a theme and a trend that's happening around the nation, not any different than bomb threats were when I was a kid, except that now when somebody posts it, everybody can get to see it. And so these create huge problems for my team and for your kids, because they go into the schools and there's this panic about something that oftentimes has absolutely no relation to Hillsborough, the Northwest, sometimes the United States. Okay, so disorderly conduct is to circulate a false report about an alleged or impending fire, explosion, catastrophe, or other emergency in a public building. Schools are considered public buildings according to the law. This one's an A misdemeanor. And there's your example. A student makes a school shooting threat post using a fake account and circulates it on their school's Instagram rumor page.
Just a quick question on that.
Yeah.
I'm not super up on social media, so using the terms circulate, that would also mean, like, I don't know what they call it, when someone else takes a post that they did and they resend it out.
Yep.
That would be considered circulating as well, even though they didn't necessarily weren't the ones originating.
Yep.
The account.
Could be, and that's always with the law. It's subject to interpretation. So circulates, I'm sure, has a legal definition somewhere, and if it doesn't, there's a case law definition. So when I go in and look at the law, anytime, like if an officer calls me and runs a situation by me, and I mean, you'd think after 20 years I'd done pretty much all the things, but it's like, there's always something new that surprises me, some new circumstance, and I'm like, well, let me read the law. So we go through and look at the law. There's always annotations that kind of tell us some of the finer details about the law. So this is just general advice, but yeah, very, would not be surprising. The element that's important is they have to know it's a false report. So if a student takes, let's say, like earlier this year, there was a masked gunman photo where the guy had a gun pointed at the camera. And a student circulated on a rumor page in one of our local schools. There was some tags on it, with Snapchat, a lot of things, you can take a photo and then add content to it. And so this was like an image that had been manipulated numerous times. So there's the first layer with the subject with the gun, and then another layer with some text with like, a lot of times they'll use school acronyms, so like, watch out CHS, we're coming for you. And then every CHS in the world panics. So there's several layers of that, and then so if a student takes that and we can prove that they like intentionally use that photo to create alarm, that's what it's
Okay, so it wouldn't necessarily be if they said, hey, take a look at this, I saw this,
Yeah.
and it just gets spread out.
Yeah,
Okay.
we would probably not have the element of knowing it was false. And these are, I summarized the law a little bit because ORS reads really boring, but it says like, it's much longer description. But. Okay, menacing. We're getting worse as we go through these. By word or conduct, attempts to place another person in fear of imminent serious physical injury. So sometimes things get out of control, and the example here, 2 youths make a Snapchat post stating that they're on their way to shoot at the house of the recipient. It's interesting, on this one, because of the imminency, we would likely have to prove that the victim was home, because we'd have to demonstrate that, like, these guys are saying they're gonna shoot up the house, and that causes this concern for serious physical injury because the victim's at home. But this is one example. Okay, now we're getting into, these used to be called intimidation, and before that they were hate crimes. So these are your race-based crimes. And bias crime 2 and 1 are very similar to the laws we already talked about. We're just adding the element of race. So when a person subjects another person to alarm by threatening to, here we are again with the serious injury or commit a felony affecting the other person or another person's family member, or to cause substantial damage to their property. And the motivator has to be because of race, color, religion, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, or national origin. These are a really big deal. When a bias crime happens, we have a specific policy that indicates a bunch of additional actions we have to take. These get addressed at the highest level. Bias crime 2 is an A misdemeanor. And an example of this one's when a youth posts on Facebook, they'll burn down the house of another youth, and they use transphobic hate speech and tag the other person. There's some important elements in here. Tagging the other person is important. You have to have a specific target.
Is tagging like addressing? Like putting
Yeah, so when if I make a public post wishing my wife a happy birthday, and I want to be sure she sees it, when I type her name in on Facebook, it pops up Kelly Gilbert, her whole name. Instagram, you type in, it's part of their vanity name, and then you can put their Instagram handle. Snapchat, same thing. You're tagging them, and what that does is, even if they don't have any friends, nothing to do with the post, because they're tagging it, they're going to see it, and then they'll see all the activity that goes along with that post. Really, pretty harmful for young people because, man, when you're tagged, it's like all night. They stay up all night on the phone worrying about it. It's interesting, and you said you're a second generation parent, or
Yeah, meaning
second
that
round
I'm a grandparent
Good job.
now.
Thank you. Yeah.
But so even my kids were only at the very beginning of this.
Yeah.
So
One of the things
I don't use social media, so I
Yeah.
think I'm just trying to like apply it to an email, right?
Yeah,
so
and I
what
would
you're
say,
saying
like-
is, so it'd be like blind copying somebody.
Yeah.
So they're gonna see it whether they want to or not,
Yeah.
is what you're telling me.
Kind
Is
of
what
like
I'm getting out of that.
the BCC. Yeah. The pink copy of the dribbling
Yeah.
one where it's a pink. Yeah. we don't know as much about phones as our kids do. I'm pretty smart. I've been around phones a lot, and my kids blow me away on the phone. You know, they just, they're working together. When you go into the schools, they all teach each other all the little tricks. They know how to use, do you know what a VPN is?
Yes.
Well, good for you. I had no idea until you find out that's how you get around the school's Wi-Fi blocker or whatever. You know, the kids are really, really sophisticated and skilled and able to manipulate the machines. And that's why I really appreciate you guys for coming to check out this thing. And I'll give some simple advice that anybody can follow. And I'm hopeful it's helpful for you. So. All right, the next one, bias crime 1. The only difference here is they're placing another person in fear of imminent serious injury. The imminency is the important part here. And so very similar to bias crime 2. It's like menacing plus gender, religion, race stuff. This one's a C felony. So I talked a little bit about crimes, misdemeanors, C, D, A, C felony, B felony, A felony. Really the main distinction between a felony and a misdemeanor is you could go to prison for a felony. The maximum term for any felony is more than 1 year, and for misdemeanor it's less than a year. Here's an example. Okay, 3 youths make an anonymous post on their school's rumor page. I've said this a few times, school rumor pages. Your kids probably have a page where they can go post dirty secrets, rumors, awful bullying type things about their peers, and then everybody in the school sees it. It's like a little miniature toxic community. They're horrible. It really is like the worst thing you could imagine. And very, very difficult for us to track down. Speaking of youth sophistication and digital media, they have ways that, I mean, tons of kids know how to set those up so that there is really no way an investigation could lead back to the person that put the content in the Google form. They set up anonymous surveys and stuff. It's crazy. We find them.
And that would be something more like online and web versus an application, a phone app like Instagram or something.
Yeah, well, I'll show you here. There's cross-platform apps that are really, really powerful. So you can use them on your computer and your phone.
Yeah.
And that's really great. So if you're being bullied on your phone and you go to do some gaming on your computer, you don't miss a beat. You know, you just get to be right there with all the suffering. So each section I'm going to give you 3 apps that you should kind of be aware of. So Discord. This is a really, really powerful app. It's amazing what Discord can do. I had no idea. I don't know how it started, if it was initially like a live streaming app or something. A lot of people live stream on Discord. But basically you can set up a server. And if you own the server and you invite people, they can join. You can post any content on your server and all the people that are on there see it. You can do like video chat all the time. You can just have the channel on and anybody that's wearing their thing can talk and you hear it. Honestly, I don't use Discord, my kids do, but it's really, really powerful. And it integrates with all the other stuff, so it's on their desktop and their phone. Yeah.
I just want to say it's mainly used for gaming, so a lot of times if you have kids that like to play video games
Yep.
on their computers and stuff like that, a lot of the times they will be on a Discord page or they watch their favorite YouTubers or their favorite gamer on Discord. They'll say inappropriate things. There's a bunch of inappropriate things that can happen on Discord, but there's other kids that do use it solely for like watching their like, people that are actual playing games just appropriately. So it is a big way to watch out.
They're awesome. I mean, like, this device is incredible, the stuff that you can do with your phone. It really is. As a professional, like, what I can do now versus what I could do 20 years ago, I could make a whole slideshow presentation on my phone, cast it to some other device, you know, make it talk and play the thing for me. It's nuts what they can do. And our kids are going to be really powerful with their device once they've mastered it. As adults, they're going to really be able to influence their world in a really big way. We got to teach them that, though. We got to teach them how to use the phone and really learn for ourselves how to use the phones too. So Discord's one to watch out for. Of course, Snapchat. Snapchat is, well, I mean, these are all challenging. Snapchat, a lot of the content disappears automatically. So for us, when we go to write a search warrant, sometimes Snapchat has some content, but most of the time you don't get much out of Snapchat. Discord, I believe the server is based in like Abu Dhabi or somewhere. A lot of them are foreign based, which makes it really, we don't have any lawful authority to get records from. Some of them will still give us the records, but those companies that you send them all the paperwork you want, they never send you. So Snapchat's cool because it's videos, you know, you can share in large groups or small groups or one-on-one.
You said it disappears?
Yeah, so you can set it up any way you want, but a lot of times what happens is when someone sends you a snap, you look at it and you can see it for, I don't know, like 7 or 10 seconds. Yeah, I don't use the app a lot, but then it kind of goes away and it's.
Do you know who it's coming from?
You can.
Okay.
People can send them different ways. I mean, it can be challenging to identify. A lot of times people will like share them or whatever, like repost it. But yeah, so Snapchat's gonna pop up in every one of these sections. It's just really popular. It's a popular app. Kids love it. There's fun filters and stuff on it, and it's where everybody's at. And really, where these kids are at, that's where the bullying and stuff is gonna happen, regardless of if it's on an app or not. Then Instagram's there. It's chat, imaging, tagging. This really inappropriate photos a lot of times are on Instagram. I think just the nature of the platform, it's more photo based than video based. A lot of these, like, interestingly, I didn't put TikTok on here. Hopefully TikTok's on Will's presentation because it's probably the worst one for your brain. But
it is bad for your brain.
But I haven't noticed kids using it like they use Instagram. They don't text each other as much through TikTok that I'm aware of. Maybe I'm just behind the ball and we haven't caught those guys yet. But yeah, these are the big three for bullying and stuff. Okay, intimate images and exploitation. Yeah, this one I would say for the worst cases, the really scary ones, generally there's been issues already and parents are struggling with kids. But for the lower level kind of stuff that you'll see in here, where all of our kids are at risk, I'm sure if you watch the news, you know, public officials are at risk, adults are at risk, people make mistakes with their phones. Okay, so some of the laws that they can get in trouble for: unlawful dissemination of an intimate image. This is when a person with intent to harass, humiliate, or injure another person, they send an image out that's identifiable of the person in either a nude state or doing sexual conduct. A misdemeanor, it's a C felony if you've done it before and got caught. An example of this is when a couple trade nudes while they're dating, and then after the nasty breakup, boy shares embarrassing information about girl sends nudes to numerous classmates via Snapchat and retaliation. So retaliation is important there. She's intending to humiliate him, and so this is the kind of conflict that can happen. You know, young people very, very commonly are exchanging images of each other. There's lots of ways that they think they're protecting themselves by putting it in their hidden folder or whatever, but yeah, they send them and then they lose control. So lots of young people have their photos and images out there, and really one impulsive act can cause a real problem. Okay. In the past, so when I was an SRO, we didn't have this one. Unlawful dissemination of an intimate image didn't exist. And so really there was only like really, really serious crimes to charge when young people shared images of themselves. You know, it was like child pornography, and they were child pornographers. And it was a real problem because young people sometimes, you know, really committed crimes. Like they really did the wrong thing, but they were young people and they ended up with a really, really serious charge. I'm really happy now we have they created some lower level crimes really in response to young people sending these images and then getting charged with a lifelong offense. Okay, so possessing materials depicting sexually explicit conduct. 2. Oh boy, you know, these are sensitive. You know, I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but basically intending to induce a person to have sexual relations with an image. So you kind of using the image to extort people, and that's a C felony. In this one, the example is the suspect threatens to leak nude images of victim, and the victim doesn't do sexual favors for suspect. It's really not super uncommon, honestly. Have you seen a couple of these cases? Yeah, I mean, it's, I just think it's a reflection of the situation we have going on. Young people have some bizarre messages that they're learning from media about how to treat each other and stuff, so. Okay, encouraging child, yeah,
Quick question on that. Do you see more of that from like an adult manipulating a kid into it, or it's just like a kid manipulating another kid more often?
we see both, but period, much more. Yeah, I mean, there's another one coming up that more often is a manipulative adult exploiting a child. Okay, encouraging child sex abuse, 1, 2, and 3. I'm lumping these ones together because the only distinctions have to do with intent and stuff. So this is possessing or controlling with the intent to view a visual recording of explicit conduct involving a child. This one can be a misdemeanor, C felony, or D felony, depending on the level. And lots of different situations can fit this one. The example that I put in here is a young person joins a Discord server and follows a link shared by a person on the server to download sexually explicit conduct involving minors and adults. You know, I think what I wanted to illustrate with this example is like committing this crime could potentially be this. Click. It's just so easy for young people to fall into a trap. You know, a lot of times they're alone on their device, interacting with people that they don't know. And, you know, kids just fall subject to things like this. And of course, we're not gonna go like arrest somebody for accidentally clicking a link, but you'd be surprised what young people get into. Okay, intimate image sextortion scams. This is the one that is pretty easily defeated, I think, by talking to your kids. And in my opinion, it's a good way to keep them from sending images to other people too. So if you ever heard like, I think they were called 501 letters or something like that, there's lots of these scam type things go back to the beginning of time. The sextortion scam basically involves a person befriends a young person on either dating app, chat site, or social media platform. I mean, I think Facebook is what I've seen the most of. It seems like Facebook is more subject to these these are oftentimes, in my belief, either people outside the United States or like, you know, a long ways away. They're just randomly targeting lots and lots of people. If somebody happens to send them an image, then they have a fish on. The conversation almost always moves to another messaging platform. I don't understand why, but that's what they say happens. And then there's the exchange of sexually explicit material. Oftentimes there's a lot of chatting stuff that builds up to that. You know, it seems like people that do these kind of scams have long-term projects, and that sometimes these scams will take, you know, a couple weeks or a month to build up to the point where they've established trust enough to start exchanging material. Once the young person sent their image or done a video chat, essentially once the suspect has convinced the victim that they now possess this sexual content, it immediately turns into extortion. So the fraudster, like right away, will say, you know, send me a $200 gift card to this address, or I'll link it to your family. And then they send them pictures and stuff from the social media to prove that they can do it. Pretty effective scam. You know, I imagine a lot of people send money without ever calling us, but we've had numerous of these. I think this year, even as little time as had so far this year. But yeah, young people fall into this trap, and victims' social media is often compromised too. So some apps to watch for in this area. This one's neat. Omegle. Chat with strangers. Yeah. I don't understand why anyone would do that, but they made an app that you go on there, and the whole purpose is so you can just chat with anybody. I can't remember what it is. Your handle's like, yeah, it's a really scary app because the most awful content is posted on Omegle. They have like everything from terrorism, I mean like the most horrible things, change your life type videos. And young people share all kinds of gross stuff on there. And there's a lot of lurking predators. Obviously, if there's a website out there that markets, like talking to strangers, you're gonna have a bunch of perks on it. So, Omegle, really scary. If your kid has it, please take it away. Instagram, yeah, lots of pictures being sent on Instagram. There's ways you can hide them and ways you can like delete the messages and stuff. I'm not sure actually if a search warrant to Instagram after something has been deleted is going to reveal that image, but yeah, it's challenging. Then Facebook, like I said.
I think we have usually about 60 to 90 days for Instagram and Facebook specifically. The only problem with that is it's about, for me personally, it's about a 50-50 chance of whether I'm going to get something back from Facebook or Instagram or search.
And it's really challenging. How long does it take you to get to the point where a judge has signed your search warrant?
The search warrant?
Yeah.
Probably talking 2 weeks.
Something like that. I mean, there really is a huge, huge, huge burden of work to get when we're involved in an investigation. It's going to be a search warrant for me. So, all right, this is the last one, and I'm going to go kind of fast through this one. It's interesting. You guys know the laws have changed a lot here in Oregon, so things really have shifted significantly with our drug marketplace, with how the police can interact with drug dealers, and the whole drug thing is kind of challenging. We have MIP marijuana still, or now, I guess we do. For people who are under 18, it's different, but the fine level is a B violation, so it's $265 fine. I put an asterisk by this. The statute says suspension of Oregon driver's license for a year, but there's a diversion alternative, so a lot of young people will get diversion. My understanding is you have to have a few MIP marijuanas before the court will suspend your license. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, juvenile department doesn't do fines for youth anymore. No more fines as a part of their punishment. Sometimes I think they pay restitution, but they removed that part of the thing. So when a youth gets in trouble, there's never like a monetary fine. Same, MIP alcohol, you can get your license suspended, $265 fine. Or you can commit one of the many, many Controlled Substance Acts offenses. So you can possess heroin or cocaine or methamphetamine or mushrooms or acid or Xanax, benzodiazepine. You can have a whole cocktail of all those things, and the penalty is an e-violation. And I want to say in user amounts. So relatively, I don't know if I call it a small amount, but in smaller amounts of those drugs. It's an e-violation, which basically means a $100 fine until you call a phone number and talk to the person for a couple minutes about your drug addiction. Then you don't have to pay the fine or do anything else. Personally, I don't know how to feel about it, but it seems a little backwards that a kid could come to school with cocaine in their pocket and face a lower penalty than marijuana or alcohol. But that's what we're facing. And when something's a violation, it is such a huge distinction for us. If it's a crime, we have things that we can do, like lawful recourse, or search and seizure involved in that. And when it's a violation, there is no search and seizure. We don't have the ability to search a car for drugs if there's drugs in it. We can get contraband out, but some of the stuff that you might see in our thriving drug marketplace, all kinds of recreational drugs. There's pretty easy access, even for young people. A lot of recreational drugs are manufactured in clandestine settings, and they may contain dangerous additives. I don't know if this is true or not, but a lot of methamphetamine, cocaine, and these M30s have, and the methamphetamine is coming with fentanyl in it. And the intelligence people in the DEA believe that that's an intentional act by drug dealers to have a higher level of addiction with young people. So,
And it's cheap.
And it's cheap.
Cheaper than the
It's very, very
original
cheap.
drug.
Yep, it's cheap and relatively available. You know, I'm not doom and gloom guy. I'm not going to say that this is all in the schools right now, but I am going to tell you it could be in about 10 minutes if one of the kids decide they want to have it. There's drug dealers on all the apps that will get your kids these things if they get the right price. So, fentanyl is commonly found mixed with other drugs, often in the form of counterfeit pills. Fentanyl's, it's just so scary. Fentanyl is extremely potent, and in the wrong dose, this kills people right away. Tons and tons of people dying from fentanyl. That's an important one to talk to your kids about. And here's a resource. Fentanyl is very, very dangerous. be aware, talk to your friends, talk to your kids. I'm not gonna talk anymore about drug stuff, but you can go here for more information. If you scan that QR code, maybe we'll be able to send it in the video or attach it to the link or something like that. This is information from the CDC about overdose and fentanyl. You know, you can get naloxone or Narcan pretty cheap almost anywhere now, and it's not a bad idea for people to have it. Have it in your car, have it in your purse, have it in your house, just in case, you know, saves lives.
Do the schools have it?
Yes.
They do, we do. We use it. And not in school. I haven't seen a fentanyl overdose in school yet, thank goodness. But yeah, I don't know. Probably not every day, but there's a lot of Narcan being used by the disease area. Okay, this is how it works, and then I'll give you some tips and we'll be done. Move on to Will's thing. Sorry if I'm eating up your time. Using Snapchat, Instagram, or Telegram, a youth reaches out by a direct message or contact known to sell drugs. Young people call this a plug. A plug is a drug dealer, and they just request to purchase what they want and how much. Plug often asks how the buyer got their contact in order to vet the buyer. Harder the drugs, the more scrutiny. This is anecdotal. This is what I've heard and seen with the young people that we've interacted with. But basically, they send a message on their phone. There's lots of people at all the high schools who know how to get in touch with these folks. So they just reach out. The plug asks them like, "Hey, how'd you get my contact?" They tell them. I don't know if they go verify that or what, but once vetted, the dealer arranges to meet in a public place. That's it. I know of young people who met at Witch Hazel Elementary School right in front. Bought some cocaine from their armed drug dealer. Really scary. Drug dealers are often traveling with a group. Sometimes they're armed. And really for the youth market dealers, these are pretty young people. It's oftentimes people in the same peer group, 16 to 21 years old. I haven't seen a lot of activity that's actually happening in the schools. There's school-age kids who are selling outside the schools. The apps to watch for on this one, Snapchat, Instagram, and Telegram. Just the direct messaging apps. All these have I don't know what they call them, but privacy chats, so you can set up your phone so as soon as you send a message, it deletes itself off your phone. Little tricks and stuff like that, yeah.
I will say they're also now calling them the homies.
The homies.
So
Yep.
they can be known as the plug, or they can also be known as the homies. Sometimes they just say, I've been hanging out with the homie. We know homies is just like your friends, like someone you just hang out with. They can also be said plug.
The plug. Okay, so here's the summary. Smartphones really are not going away, first of all. Second of all, they're amazing. The technology really is incredible. It brings great power to our fingertips. But young people don't have, they do have more awareness and understanding of the social media platform than us, but they haven't had the skill building yet to filter the world for themselves. So they need our help. You gotta set limits and boundaries. It's really important. You gotta consider monitoring tools. I don't have great advice about which ones, but each cell phone provider, service provider has a family network system that they market, and then you can get apps where you can pretty much see everything that's going on in your kid's phone. I think they're a great idea. It's just a great way for your child to know that you're seeing what they're doing. My guess is that they probably have a sense of how to get around that. Start early and be consistent. This is just, you gotta start when the kid has the phone in its hands for the first time. Teaching them how to separate it from the phone, how to use the phone to their benefit, and recognize when the phone is not benefiting them anymore. And really, this is my personal advice. Now, I'm gonna caveat this, my kids didn't, float through life with no issues at all. But they've been able to make it through, and I think a part of that is the relationship they have with me and their mom. You gotta find ways to connect with your kids, be a part of their digital world, and set a good example. Spend time without your phone in front of your kid and make sure they have their phone put away. Ask them about the apps they're using. You gotta really, it's hard. You have to be creative as a parent. My kids won't tell me anything unless I, catch the right, some right term or something like that. But find ways to connect with your kids digitally because they spend so much of their life there. And if you just tap into what's going on with them, maybe you make a Snapchat account and join their thing and learn how to use it. One, you probably have some fun. Two, you get to know your kid a little bit better. And three, they'll know you're watching. That's important. So, that's all I have for this presentation. My name is Gilbert. He's the sergeant. That's my phone number. That QR code takes us to the Hillsborough Police Department Youth Services webpage. We have a contact us form there. It's a little button you can click to send me an email. I love emails, and I never get any emails from this thing, so I'm offering a $5 coffee gift card. I've offered this numerous times, still no email. Send me an email, send me a poem, send me a joke. These guys are send me something. $5 coffee gift card for the winner. I wanna correspond with you, so send me a message. I really do appreciate the time you guys have spent here listening to my little presentation, and I'm honored to present Will Henson here. Will helps us out a lot with the threat assessment world, and threat assessment is one of the really great mechanisms that our district does really well to ensure that young people who are struggling with hard behaviors get the best care and treatment while they're in school, and that we don't just exclude people because we're scared. So with that said, Sarah, unless you have anything else?